deep in the annals of your mind. I am deep in the annals of your... Hey everybody, welcome back to the Honey and Absinthe After Hours podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Vincent, a background designer for the Hollywood animation industry.
And I'm Janet, the ex-Disney artist turned independent creator, and this is a podcast about all things art, business, and
whatever we feel like. Now today we're going to talk about why art and business don't mix and why people would rather talk about the Spiderverse movies instead of Elemental.
But before we get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, touch my bells and buttons.
Hey, touch your buttons, squeeze them, pinch them, and make them red. Hey everybody, how's it going? It's been a while. I hope you're feeling the heat. The summer movie season has started, and the movie studios are desperately trying to get your hard-earned dollar that is getting more and more inflated by the day. And today we're going to talk about our feelings about Pixar's new endeavor called Elemental, but also talking deeply about kind of just the state of the animation industry, I guess.
Yeah, I was thoroughly surprised by this movie, so we want to talk about it, because I bet you no one's going to talk about it.
No one's going to talk about it.
So, spoilers? If you don't want to get... I don't know why you would
I think
care.
we can do this without spoilers.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay, so? Well, I don't think we can do it
without,
actually.
So. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what did you like about this movie?
I think this movie is a shocker. It's a gorgeous movie. I like, just right off the bat, if we're going to talk about like the first impression, the first thing that just hit me was just like, damn, this movie's pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And the mix of these flame people with their kind of almost 2D-ish, like everyone seems like in the animation industry is trying to toy with this like 2D-ish, not straight up The Good Dinosaur, let's make everything look super CG, not straight up like How to Train Your Dragon, let's make everything super CG. Like everyone's kind of dabbling. We'll see Disney's endeavor with Wish at the end of the year, but this time the style is this almost like typical Pixar stuff, but then some of the characters are a lot more stylized, and it's kind of amazing to see how far they're pushing just the way things look, like caustics on the ceiling and flame effects, and steam, and like, you know, this movie is about elements, so like you kind of see everything. To me, the most impressive thing about the movie in terms of beauty and aesthetics is when they do glass. It is amazing. I really like the way they do glass. And okay, yeah, like we say all the time, it's very hard to impress us with visuals, but like, man, that I think this is very like, it's like, wow, you know, it gives me like, I'm like the food critic from Ratatouille, you know, like nothing really makes me feel much anymore, and I'm probably gonna, you know, judge your food really harshly, but like this is one of those times I'm eating the Ratatouille and I'm like, and it feels like, dare I say, that like old school Pixar, which is just kind of like, if I could just turn back time and just watch those movies again, from Toy Story to WALL-E, I would be like, man, I didn't know how good I had it. And the themes of this movie, the fact that it's just like an airtight story. So like, I'm going to talk about story now. Mm-hmm. It's just so deliciously tight and deliciously paced. Not a single moment wasted. I never got bored. But then it's not like Mario where like everything is going a million miles per hour, but it's not like Spiderverse where it's just like, I'm Phil Lord and Tim Miller. We're going to spend 4 years on this train sequence, and we're going to take forever to get to Miles leaving home and doing the hero's journey bullshit. To watch a movie where also two characters fall in love is something I haven't seen in a long time. People are like, oh, but La La Land. Like, no, I actually... That's kind of a terrible romance story, I think. That's more about like how Hollywood destroys people.
Yes.
But for this movie, it's kind of it's kind of nice to see the whole Pixar animation thing do its thing, where it's just like the difference between the studios is DreamWorks cares about textures, Disney cares about appeal, and Pixar, out of everyone, gives the most shits about the story. And it seems like they slaved really hard to make sure the story is airtight, and not a single joke was like one of those like Marvel roll your eyes kind of jokes. It was just like sweet and very kawaii and very like wholesome. And it's kind of like the animated stuff that I loved, and kind of the whole reason why I was into this stuff. And it told this story about mainly immigrants and how there's friction between certain cultures that I think could only be told in animation. I think it's kind of amazing that we're using animation for something like the Spiderverse, where that I don't think that Spiderverse thing actually needs to be an animation. It's just kind of an excuse to go buck wild with what they could do in the multiverse without hiring a shit ton of actors. But for this movie, it's not there's so the story is about like, all these different elements move into this kind of America world where like there's the tree people, there's the steam people, there's the fire people, there's the water people. It's like Avatar in The Last Airbender. And they're all coming, and like they all have their own cultures, and they all kind of need to coexist with each other. And this movie and like Pixar has been in a lot of heat with like, the politics stuff with Lightyear and the Red Panda movie. What do you call that one?
Turning Red. But like this movie is actually just very simply about the differences that people have and coming together and falling in love and creating family, and like where people have come from and their traditions. And it's kind of, it could have been really heavy-handed. It could have been very like finger wagging, like, oh yeah, like those water people, or like this is an allegory for politics in America 2023, which could have really dated the thing, made me really upset. But like this is just a super wholesome story about two unlikely people falling in love. And I was just like, man, it feels like forever since I've seen something so just, it does your job, which is tell a good story, for the love of God, please. You're Pixar.
Like, you're Pix, like, yeah, like, but like sometimes I just want to shake people. I want to shake the Flash, and I want to shake across the Spiderverse and go like, stop! I don't care about your member berry bullshit. I don't care about how many years it took you to achieve this style. Can you just tell a good story, please? So it was kind of a return to form, very old school Pixar, to see that that kind of storytelling of like, it's kind of like something I haven't seen in a very long time, like where you just don't waste time and you don't be cute, and if the jokes land, they stay, and if they don't, they're out.
Yeah.
There's so many jokes in movies recently, and I'm just like, no. Can we not? No. So yeah, it's just, boy, it like, this is the kind of movie that makes me feel, man, this is like animation. This is the animated movie. This is the one where it makes me go like, a lot of people talk big game about Del Toro said that animation is a medium that should be taken seriously. Animation is a medium that everyone should care about. The Oscars should give a shit about. The Academy should give a shit about it. You know what you assholes are watching? The fucking Marvel movie. You're not watching the animated movies. Like you're just watching the bullshit that everybody, like the Hollywood machine, wants you to talk about. Mm-hmm. You're not actually watching like the movie that's like a one-off movie and that's trying to tell a story that only animation can tell. Like no, you're not watching that movie. Instead, you're running your fucking mouth about the Spider-Man movie, the 100th Spider-Man movie.
That's honestly not that good. It's fine. It's decent. So we talked a lot of shit about Spider-Verse being not that innovative, not actually that beautiful to
trained eyes like ours working in the industry and just seeing truly the most beautiful shit that you've ever seen in behind the scenes, and like we're dead inside. I thought this movie was gorgeous. I was like, wow. Like just the opening shot, I was like, holy shit. Like, what am I watching? This movie feels progressive to me.
Progressive in what way?
I can't explain exactly what's happening very well, but there's something about the lighting in this movie that's on a different level compared to anything I've seen recently. From anime to Puss in Boots to Spider... Like, there's something about the way light interacts with things in this movie is so painfully gorgeous to me. The effects animation is really interesting because it's cartoony and not at the same time, and you wouldn't think it, but there is an aspect of 2D-ness to the way it's animated, but it's done so subtly and it blends so well with the CG. And everything is designed so impeccably, from like the way Firetown is designed to the way Earth is designed, the Earth section, and to the way the water glass world is. It's just so beautiful.
And talk about like just putting the design into the characters of having like those sharp edges for Ember, and then the really soft boy, like bubbly
yes.
bubbly shapes with Wade. And that's the kind of stuff that, like, oh man, Pixar, man. Like all the way from The Incredibles, just like using shape language to just tell a story unto itself by just the character, instead of a lot of the movies where it's just like, let's just make things edgy and cool. And it's just like, man, I really like it when America does the thing that America does best and doesn't try to be anime. I just hate it at this point. Whenever like I feel like your storyboard artists are anime people, like when I watch like this type of stuff where it's just like, let's like compose the actual picture and not like push perspective just to do it just because we can.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just so, you know, like everything is just so neatly, tidily placed where it needs to be in the frame, and it's just like, damn.
Yeah.
And easy to read.
Yes.
Like, to me, like, art isn't about, you know, it's not about pretty graphics, it's not about pretty colors, it's not about pretty storytelling, whatever. The most important thing in art is it clear?
You know what's
Can I
going
understand
on?
what the fuck is going on? And, like, it's kind of amazing, because, like, the past two animated movies, other than, well, you know, like Mario is all right. But you know, seeing something like Puss in Boots and Spiderverse, where I'm just like, this is like you're like twisting the camera and contorting in all sorts of different ways for what? For why? Like okay, it's an action movie, but Incredibles does action very clearly, very very beautifully composed, where like every action is perfectly choreographed. You know, like, and it's not just like we're doing the Dragon Ball thing.
Yes.
And I'm just like, it's just one of those things where just like, oh, like it makes me feel like, oh, you could do it. You guys, you have like the industry hasn't forgotten how to do the whole animation thing.
They just don't want to sometimes. So if you're like, what the fuck do you know? You like Spider-Verse? How dare you? This is what I consider like art and beauty that makes my heart sing. Not only that, Pixar is known for story. Story is king for Pixar. I have been really frustrated with Pixar movies of late because it felt like they abandoned that for weird culture war bullshit. Which is why I didn't bother to watch Lightyear. I didn't bother to watch Turning Red, even though you'd think I would want to. I'm Asian. I'm like kind of the target demographic. The only movie I considered watching was Soul, but I just wasn't ready yet. I like my personal issues. I was not ready yet. But like this story, I thought was so good. And I don't really know who this movie is for. because it doesn't seem like it's a movie for kids. I feel like this movie is literally for people like you and me, like Vincent and I. Like, literally, it feels like you're speaking directly to me, because it's a story about a girl with immigrant parents who came to America, sacrificed everything for her, while struggling with being a child of an immigrant, having to take over her family business, while dealing with basically falling in love with someone of a different race than her that is not accepted by her parents, who are very traditional. And I'm just like, this is a little too close to home. And I don't know why. I've noticed on social media the critics give it a not great score, which, like, I don't know what you're smoking, because maybe it's that, like, maybe it's not relatable for you, and maybe it isn't for you, because it's like for me. It's like for me and Vincent. I related to it. It's kind of like Everything Everywhere, but in my opinion it's done better. It handles race and being an immigrant really honestly, without like talking down to the children, to me. I think it's honest. I think the jokes are my flavor of jokes, where like they're not really jokes, they're just pointing out the way life is, human people are, and just kind of laughing at how ridiculous we are. There's, I think, a scene that I thought was particularly entertaining was when Ember goes to Wade's house to have family dinner.
Ooh. Ooh.
It's very
it's too real.
Who's coming for dinner?
Yeah.
Kind of scene. Done in a very Pixar way, and I like some of the jokes are like hilarious to me, because it's like so real. Like the struggle of being in a mixed race couple is just hilarious, and it's just real. Like it's there's something so honest about it, and that's what I really like about it. And like you said, there's so much opportunity for it to do the culture war stuff because this is about immigrants coming to America essentially, and you throw in like romance in there, that with like the complications of being in a mixed race relationship. It would be real easy for the Times for them to like say something kind of snarky about the times, and to make a commentary on race and all that stuff, but it actually doesn't.
To put people down, it has every opportunity to do that, but no, it lifts people up.
And it's a story about people coming together, and not about people alienating each other or fighting with each other. Like, yes, we have a hard time like truly getting along because we're a melting pot of a country, but that's the beauty in it, and we do actually mix very, very well at the end of the day. It's a very like hopeful movie. And I wonder if people really don't like Wade being such a soft boy and crying all the time. But I think the point of it, well, there's like 2 points. There's a theme of like dealing with your emotions, kind of like Inside Out, and then there's the like Pixar meta that like we know we make you cry. We know, like...
Oh, man. There's a scene where in this family dinner where Wade is with Ember, and he's showing Ember to his family, and we always complain that Pixar is going to do the "and then you cry" scene. Yes. And Disney does the "I want" song, yes. And then Pixar does the "and now you cry." And, now every animated movie from Puss getting a panic attack to Gwen Stacy and her stupid family problems has the "and then you cry" scene. And it's almost like they make Pixar's, in a very funny meta way, is making fun of themselves of going like, we're going to play this game where we try to make you cry.
Yes. It's as if they do this for fun at work or something.
It's like, after lunch, let's make each other cry. Let's see if we can work that into our art.
Let's capitalize on our childhood trauma.
That's right.
I also really like the music of this movie. I thought it was really cool. We didn't really talk about the music in Spiderverse that much because I didn't really like it all that much. It kind of bored me a little bit.
Trap.
Yes. Felt a little dated, actually. So, in general, I have no dislikes for this movie.
Wow.
I have no notes. I love this movie.
I have no notes too. I keep mulling over in my head like what problems do I have, and I don't have a problem with this movie. We even had problems with Super Mario, which we really, really, really like. But for this movie, it's kind of just, I had a good time. I was smiling ear to ear. I really thought it was just the most beautiful thing I saw in a long time. And I have no problems with it. It's kind of amazing. I kept going like, is this really happening? And like, do I have no problems with this movie?
Yeah, I was so surprised to come out of the theater loving the movie so much. Like, this is a first. This is like, so what score do we give this movie?
I think this is our very first A+ we're going to give to a movie. And I think if you're an animated movie, if you can't rise to the occasion of Elemental, you don't get an A+. Mm-hmm. You know?
This is such a good movie. We side with the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes for this. This is like my favorite CG animated movie of all time is Incredibles. I think that is like a near perfect animated movie, and this is like up there with it.
Yeah.
When I really like thought hard about this, I'm like, no, I really think this is up there with it. It's a good movie, and I think everyone who likes animation, you talk about taking animation seriously, go watch this movie then and tell me what you think.
Because like if this movie makes, not nearly as much money as, as whatever, as Ant-Man, if this movie just doesn't make good numbers, you don't actually give a shit about animation. Mm-hmm. You like to pretend like you give a shit about animation, but you don't actually support the animated movies that need supporting. Mm-hmm. So all of this hoopla about people caring about take me seriously, I draw, like no, like you don't even give a shit about the good animated stuff that comes out. Like if you're not watching this movie, don't I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear how you're a champion of animation. Give me a break.
Yeah. Cuz like this isn't even like indie animation. Like this is just good mainstream animation that focuses on story rather than like flashy gimmicks and Marvel comic books to bring you into the movie.
Or execs going, well, people like anime, we gotta like make Puss in Boots like do Attack on Titan.
Yeah. So like like you said, this movie reminds me of Pixar from before because it's not. There's this weird trend of Pixar doing like non-Pixar looking movies. Like, I don't know what, like Onward, for example, and Lightyear, to me look like DreamWorks movies. And they like push the boundaries with culture war stuff, like first lesbian kiss on camera or whatever. And I go like, that's not really what I like Pixar for, and you've kind of alienated your core Pixar audience from that. And like this movie though really brings me back to why I watch Pixar movies, and I'm glad that this is my first Pixar movie that I came back to once I've decided I'm healed emotionally enough to watch animated movies again without throwing up in anger. I'm really happy this is the first Pixar movie that I've watched. I'm glad I did. I'm glad I skipped Lightyear. I'm glad I skipped like a lot of that, whatever that is. That's not Pixar to me.
Our last Pixar movie was Coco.
Yes.
That was our last one.
Which
was a long time ago.
It makes me so. This type of movie is what made me want to work in the industry, and the way it's being received right now And the way it's kind of being ignored and kind of being shat on because people are assuming that it's going to get buried because of Spider-Verse, because of all the superhero movies. And I don't know, people are speculating a lot of things. Like, people have gotten accustomed to watching animated movies on Disney Plus or something. I don't know. Who knows why it will or will not do well. But this movie makes me feel a lot of like personal emotions because this is the type of movie that inspired me to want to work in the industry. And like, this is exactly what happens. I hate when people who are working in the industry complain when people shit on them and then they say, a lot of people worked on this movie. Like, people had livelihoods, This means, like, there are hundreds of people behind this movie. I'm like, cry me a river. Like, you still work, and I've worked, and that's just part of the fucking industry, that you work behind the scenes, and if you can't take the criticism, too bad. People are going to criticize you, and you won't get the accolades you deserve. You won't get the notoriety or ego boost that you want when your movie sucks because your box office doesn't do well. And the sad part is, box office numbers don't always equal good art. And that's where the thesis of this video comes in, that like, art and business don't always mix. I think Pixar was really lucky when Toy Story and Incredibles and like this height of Pixar that we grew up with, it was this beautiful marriage of art and business that did mix. It allowed people to get the accolades, to make the art, and then people appreciate the art, and it also made people money that incentivizes the artists to make more art. But that rarely ever happens, because look at the Pixar movies of the past decade. Rarely, when you start working, are you going to get to work on something like Elemental. Something that you put your heart and soul into that actually means something to you or to people, and you like really worked hard on it to make it a good thing. Most of the time, you're working on Lightyear. You're working on like bullshit.
Yeah, most of the time you're getting Amy Pascal to make the Spider-Man brand stronger. But then, very rarely, I mean, one point in your resume, you actually make something that's really heartfelt, that actually is like the quality is very, very high. And the worst part in this day and age, it's not like, when we were growing up, people don't watch movies like that anymore.
Yeah.
It's the saddest part that, like, I feel kind of like, I really feel for the people who made this movie, because there's a lot of heart in this, and I feel like, maybe I know what it's like. It's not always like sunshine and daisies behind the curtains when you're making something like this, but you guys made something really good. Mm-hmm. I feel for you, because I think you're gonna get buried in the box office, but I will champion this movie. Yeah. I will wear this movie on my sleeve and go like, if you didn't watch Elemental, you have no fucking business talking about how animation should be taken seriously.
Yeah, because you don't take animation seriously. This is like, in our opinion, one of the best movies of the year. Not just an animated movie. Just best movies of the year, because it's just so well put together, better. Usually, that's always what I used to think, that like, because animation takes so long to craft, you have a lot of time to sit there and think about the movie and think about your plot points, and to really, because you don't want it takes so long to animate something, or even to storyboard something. You don't want to animate something that's going to be a deleted scene, because that's like a lot of money you just threw down the drain. Like, no one wants to do that, and that's money, time, resources. You should. That's why I feel like animated movies, when we were growing up, were so economical. They were so well crafted. The stories, like, that's why I love animation, because a lot of times, a lot of animated movies are better told, better crafted than live action movies. Mm-hmm. And yet people don't take it seriously. That's just how it is. And like, for people to ignore this movie simply because they get more social points by talking about Spider-Verse in the zeitgeist. They're not going to watch this movie. And it makes me sad because, like, you don't care about movies and you don't care about animation. I don't believe anyone actually cares about that stuff. And it makes me sad because...
Yeah, what do you think? Like, what do you feel about, like, the people who worked on this had arguments in the story room?
Yes.
Heated arguments in the story room for just to, like, you know, just to make these pearlescent scenes shine, you know, like they slaved over this, and then this movie comes out and no one's really watching it.
It is what it is. Like it. So as I was saying about, like, you work really hard and you rarely are on a movie like this. You tend to be on something like Lightyear or let's say Spider-Verse. I'm sure there's what happens when you are in an industry where most projects are Spider-Verses and not Elemental, is that people start thinking, fuck art, fuck personal expression, even though that's why we all got into this. I'm all about ego now. Either, like, if I can't do the Elemental thing most of the time, I'm going to get whatever it is that I am getting from this, which is now becomes money and status and ego and people telling me I'm great because I worked on something like Spider-Verse, even though deep down inside, you're like, it's not that good. That's upsetting because then it creates this environment in animation where it's like classic Hollywood. It's just everyone doesn't actually care about the art anymore, and it's all become me, ego, and praise me. And then when, like, you are finally, like, once in a lifetime, you're on a movie or a show or whatever like Elemental that actually means something to you. One, who knows? It might actually be a nightmare to have worked on. Usually, good things are a nightmare behind the scenes. Like, it's competitive, it's not fun. Or, you get shit on, and no one cares. And you like, that's, like, it's luck in some ways. That, like, maybe Elemental just came out at the wrong time. Maybe it came out
too late.
Yeah. There's so many reasons why it could be bombing that you don't have control over. And then, like, you get that, like, I'm not saying this as, like, a dig. It just is what it is. Like, people who are upset that people criticize your life's work, like, that's Hollywood, that's art, you signed up for this. We all signed up for this, and, like, that's the saddest part, and, like, that part of it makes me really sad. And it's one of the biggest reasons why I left. Because if no one cares about my art, especially that, like, I wanted to showrun one day, I wanted to pitch one day, I wanted to bring these things, these personal stories to life. Imagine being the guy who came up with Pixar, pitched this story, and then no one cares. If no one's going to care to begin with, why do this for someone else? Why only get maybe once in a lifetime chance to do that when I can do that all of the time and still no one cares? But at least I'm doing that rather than doing some Lightyear bullshit for someone else for most of the time, and then I don't even have the care or the energy to do the thing I actually wanted to do. I think this movie was really nice for me to see, to at least get that Ratatouille feeling of, like, oh, you can still do it. There's faith in humanity again. But it also, like, there's a lot of conflicting emotions that I'm still, like, working through after leaving the industry, and then now being, like, okay enough to watch something like this, and it's like, oh, look at that. exactly why I left.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, if you and I worked on something like Elemental, we would sacrifice our physical well-being to make sure it's great. That's just kind of your duty as an artist, and it's just kind of like, it's it's you know, it's a thankless job when like you're putting your whatever into this and no one watches it. And I don't know, man, like it doesn't seem like, I see a lot of comments on Twitter that like, I worked on Spiderverse and I almost quit, but I'm glad I didn't quit because, and I'm just like, oh, okay, so Spiderverse was a fucking nightmare to work on.
Yes.
Like, I fucking knew it. Like, how could something take this long to come out and be this messy when it comes out? Like, it doesn't sound like a walk in the park either. And it's just like everyone's just killing themselves, and it's kind of amazing to see something that like. Look, we all play nice. I'm sure you have your favorite animation artists that play nice and talk nice things in the social medias. We're all talking about what projects fucking suck and what's not working behind the scenes. There's one that I can think of that rhymes with hoorah that everyone loves to shit on. Everyone in the industry loves to shit on. But like I don't believe that the people guys, I know everybody who worked, I know you feel if you were on Elemental that you made a better movie than Spider-Verse.
Yes.
And I agree with you.
I agree.
I agree with you. The whole world doesn't feel like it, but trust me, as a Pixar fan, as like, you know, as a fan of this medium, you guys did it really good. And fuck the noise, because like you guys did it, and I feel for you.
Yeah, it's sad.
It's sad. Like I really like, you know, we're shooting this on a Friday, but like I really hope the box office is decent, and I will do my best to help word of mouth for your second weekend. Like it's the least I can do, because it's kind of like if I were in the crew of Elemental, and I saw my movie come out and I see all this hype for Spider-Verse, you know, I'd be like, my movie's better than yours.
But no one will
but no one will watch it.
It's like that's the fascinating part. Like this happens so often.
But we have to play nice. We have to be like,
yes.
Oh, I'm so happy for the crew of Spider-Verse, and you know, like they worked really hard and they were so, you know, they're so diligent behind the scenes. You know, yeah, you did a great job, Spider-Verse crew.
And that's why I think people who have experienced this and have worked on something like this,
because we're all competitive too.
Yes, but I think they're infinitely more humble and down to earth than the people who worked on Spider-Verse. No,
I actually think the people who work on Spider-Verse are kind of dead inside right now. They seem burnt out, like fucking crazy burnt out.
But I think that's what keeps them going though, like the ego and the praise, like it's so toxic. But like it's this kind of like, I wouldn't call it a failure, because it's like you made it though. You made this beautiful movie regardless of whether or not it did well in the box office. You know you did it. You have that experience in your life, and you know deep down inside that like you made something you're really proud of. I don't believe the people who made Spider-Verse made something they're proud of. They're proud of being on it. They're not proud of
what they did with it, right?
And I like that. I think that's why like having experience is kind of I guess in quotes failure is such a humbling thing. It's like when you make something that's truly like from the heart and like represents you regardless of whatever. Like, yeah, that means so much more, regardless of whether people like it. And in fact, if no one watches it, no one cares about it, it's still something you put out in the world. And it's like, I think that's why these people, like people who've had this specific kind of experience, feel very humble, because they, I think, still have that like artist spark in them that I think most people who work on other things that tend to be celebrated don't, because it's not about art for them anymore. It's about the status of it all.
So why is this movie? Why didn't Disney pump some money into marketing for this movie? Because I don't see any YouTube trailers at the beginning of my YouTube videos. I don't see any billboards. It's just I don't know. I don't know why Disney didn't do this movie justice. It seemed like it was this close to showing up on Disney Plus, which that would have been like a goddamn travesty. I tell you what, like it's kind of amazing to see Disney not care about Pixar, especially growing up in the time where like Pixar was making them money and their own animation arm was suffering. You know what the fuck they were doing until Lasseter joined Disney.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I really don't know.
I don't get it. It's just it flummoxes me because I'm just like, some of my theories are just like they put too much money into Lightyear's marketing and now they don't have enough, so they barely hobbled enough to put this movie out there. Maybe Disney's hyper concerned with making sure The Little Mermaid does great. Maybe Disney and Indiana Jones, or maybe Disney is actually hemorrhaging money like a lot of the rumors are saying. But like it's kind of a goddamn travesty. I think that like what I think is one of the best movies of the year is the best movie of the year so far. We're in like month 6, halfway through it, and it's kind of just being slept on.
Yeah, it's weird. Like there was so much marketing for Little Mermaid that I guess is an official flop because it had such a big budget. I don't know why, but it just wasn't received well internationally. My assumptions for that is not what people think it. Like everyone's blaming racism, but I actually don't think so. I think Disney has this problem of making really niche movies specifically for America, but with a international budget. So like their international budget of $200-300 million means that they're aiming for $1 billion, which means they need it to do well globally, which means they need to make stories that resonate with a global audience, which means they need to make stories about the human experience and condition, like love stories and family and, you know, the stuff they used to be really good at. And yet they are doing a lot of culture war stuff that is only relevant in the United States. I don't think people in other countries give two shits about our culture war about race or gender or whatever, which is why I think like Elemental is so great. It's a uniquely American story, and but it's actually more of an immigrant. Like everyone has immigrated to other countries, whether it's America or whatever, and we have this experience, and yet like instead of prioritizing the marketing for a movie like this, they choose to market the really controversial Little Mermaid movie or Indiana Jones or what, and it seems like their priority is on live action, but like in a very American, it's like you're forcing these very American stories on people who do not care about American stories because they don't live in America. They don't care about these things. It makes me feel like the filmmakers of these live action movies, and I don't know, the decision makers at the top of Disney are really like, they don't understand how to think globally. That like, maybe Korea, maybe China, maybe it's not really about race. Maybe they just don't care about this controversy.
Or maybe they don't even care about the Little Mermaid, period.
Yeah, it's just odd to me. And like, to me, it feels like Disney, I don't know why, is really stepping away from animation as a whole, whether from Pixar or Disney feature animation. So I don't know. I have no clue. If you have any conspiracy theories of why they seem to be letting movies flop almost on purpose, decent movies too. It's just odd. It's
do you think Disney will ever get back into animation? Do the thing that like, you know, Daddy Disney, Walt Disney in his grave
always envisioned.
I don't think so.
It depends who's helming it. It seems like Amy Pascal, not Pascal. What's her name? Kathleen Kennedy is hell-bent on her weird agendas, and Iger just I don't know. This is so odd. Like Warner Brothers and James Gunn and DC, they're like trying to make their movies that they know are flops not a flop. Disney is like purposely trying to flop movies that are not flops. Like, it's odd. Strange. If you like this episode, like, subscribe, jingle all our bells and buttons, check out these episodes next to binge all our other episodes, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.